Kate Northrup, author of Money, A Love Story, and this is the Money Love Story series. I'm here with my friend Jen Groover, and she's an amazing entrepreneur. She's an author. She wrote a great book called What If and Why, no, Why Not? What If and Why Not?
What If and Why Not?
Yeah, as it was coming out, it started sounding wrong. And she also is the leader of a brand and a movement called Empowered, which we're going to talk a little bit more about. But as part of the launch of Money, A Love Story, I'm chatting with some of my friends who I really love and respect the work that they've done in the world, so you can hear from them and learn from their own journey with money, because it's a topic I think we don't talk about enough, especially as women.
People are intimidated by it, right?
Yep, and it's a taboo.
People feel obnoxious talking about it. People feel scared to talk about it. People are embarrassed to talk about it. So.
Exactly. But it's part of all of our lives. Yeah. And you actually can't avoid money.
No.
So well,
if you do, it's going to be a problem.
And that is part of my money love story. Mm-hmm. We'll see if it's part of yours. So I'd love to know, for you, just starting out, growing up, what did you witness around money? What did you learn about money? What was your experience there?
Well, my father came from a really, really poor family. Mm-hmm. And he worked really hard to earn his money. He was in the military, and then he put himself through law school afterwards, and he became an attorney, but he lived with a scarcity mindset his entire career. That sense of, when will it go away, and I'm going to squirrel it away, just in case it does go away. And so the conversation was really about scarcity around money, and analyzing money in a sense that it could go away at any time.
Wow. Which,
in one respect, teaches you to not take it for granted.
Right.
In another respect, it teaches you that fear of it going away, which is not an abundant mindset that allows you to receive it at a greater level. And I think that scarcity mindset pushes it away a lot more. Mm-hmm. It was a point of contention between my mother and father.
Okay.
My entire childhood. And then when my parents got divorced, it became an even greater point of contention. Mm-hmm. I watched my mom go from this very strong, brazen woman to pretty much falling apart from the stress of lack of money and keeping my brother and I taken care of during that time period. And so there was a lot of negative things around money throughout my childhood.
Yeah. And then as you grew up, you left home, and like in through your 20s, how did that impact how you related with money?
Well, when I watched my mom literally fall apart to the point where shortly thereafter she had a massive stroke from all the stress, I realized that I never wanted anyone to control my finances or happiness. And I did that awareness came at a very young age. Yeah. And I didn't realize at the time it became a contract for me, very much part of who I am. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until just a few years ago where I almost woke up and I was like, wait a second, that contract became who I am. Yeah. And it wasn't that I set out with that intention other than to have control of my finances and happiness. But the next thing you know, I'm such an advocate for women's entrepreneurship and women's independence, which correlates to everything that happened, was my trigger moment that created who I am.
Yeah.
Created my movement.
Yeah, exactly, which is what you're doing now, and I definitely want to get to talking about that as well.
Yeah.
And then you went on to start your own business, and as a business owner as opposed to as an employee, I know you got started in the fitness world, owning a gym. As a business owner and entrepreneur, you interact with money in a different way, and nobody else is controlling it, which is a great thing and a bad thing, right? So what were some of the things you learned as an entrepreneur? I mean, you've been an entrepreneur now for how many years?
Since I was 25.
Okay, so a long,
not
actually that long. I actually don't know. Oh, yeah.
15 years, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's awesome.
Maybe 4.
It's great. It's a good year.
Yeah, it's a good year.
So what are some of the challenges that you encountered through that period since you were 25 running your own show?
Having the courage to ask for my worth.
Okay.
I think that was the biggest thing. Even today, I still struggle with it sometimes, where I know what I want, and I'm afraid if I ask for it that I'll ruin the deal. And so I'll have to go into that inner dialogue of, wait, if it ruins the deal, then it wasn't a worthwhile deal anyway.
Right.
Or do I really want it, and are the other benefits more worthwhile than the finances?
Yeah.
Which sometimes they are. So I think that the worth factor was probably the hardest thing. Feeling bad for asking people for what they owed me. I just had that scenario this week. I had someone who owed me money, and I actually felt bad asking them because I knew that they were financially struggling. So I was like, do you think someday in the near future? And I felt myself like tapping around it.
Hedging.
Yeah. And I realized that men wouldn't have handled it the same way.
It's true.
My lack of receiving it is probably because I'm not handling it the same way. And so, and I'm sure I became a lesser of a priority in my kindness for it. So I think that the worth thing and the fear of scaring a deal or people off is something that women deal with all the time.
Yeah. And how do you build that up? Because obviously you do have an international brand. You know, Butler Bags it has been really big. Your book, Now Empowered, you know, you just had a PBS special air. Like, really good stuff is happening. So you've obviously gotten over it to some degree.
Oh, yeah.
So what are some tools and tips that you've used to build your self-worth and really nourish that part of yourself?
It starts with mindfulness. I mean, really being mindful of your thoughts and what's happening, like how that circumstance happened this week. And I actually was able to step back and walk through it. Why am I acting this way? Why do I feel nervous? Right. Why am I scared to call this guy who owes me money?
Asking yourself the questions.
And really working through the process and being aware. And so instead of just being in a reactive state, you're more in a process of awareness and growth. And it's like a muscle that you're constantly pushing forth. It's sometimes easier for me to go to a retailer and ask for a lot of money than it is to go to an independent person and ask them for a little bit of money because it's so much more personal.
Yeah.
But I think getting over it is just about awareness, constantly building your self-esteem, knowing your worth, surrounding yourself by other people who know their worth is a huge part. And actually looking up to people who you know have already overcome those fears.
That's great. So modeling other people, how it would apply to your life, not copying, but modeling some role models.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whether they're male or female.
Absolutely.
I love watching people who negotiate. Fascinates me. Because it's an art.
It really is.
Such an art.
Oh my goodness!
It's all psychology, and
it's fascinating,
isn't it? It is.
Mike, a couple years ago, my fiance, who's also my cameraman, was negotiating deals on cars for my uncle, and listening to him do this on the phone was like, oh my god! First of all, listening to a man do it is so different than listening to a woman do it, and I've heard women negotiate as well. And how do you feel when you're negotiating? What's that experience like for you? Because you do business a lot, like you're doing deals,
a lot. It's still an experience that I'm aware of, and I'm perfecting.
Cool.
It's something that I feel like I haven't perfected yet. I've definitely gotten way further along than I ever thought I would be.
Yeah.
Especially with my childhood circumstances and stories. Having two girls and watching them grow up and seeing their needs and how expensive they get is a little extra fuel.
Yeah.
So it's not just me, and it's not like it's me buying my stuff.
Right.
It's me providing for them, which gives me a lot more power. And so whenever I get nervous, that's my back pocket.
Nice.
I think
love
about them
that.
before I think about me.
Smart to take the focus off yourself and on to helping somebody else.
Yeah, right.
Now tell me then, before we started rolling, you said, do you know what drives me to make money? And that, of course, I was like, no, I don't, but I really want to know. So tell me, why is money important for you, and what is that drive? And because you're quite ambitious.
Well, the drive goes back to that childhood story and watching my mom be this strong, powerful woman way ahead of her time, but women weren't making money back then.
Right.
So my mom was not financially independent. She would make money, but it wasn't enough money to be independent. So that was a huge trigger for me. Now it's more success for me. Of course, money's part of that.
Yeah.
It's the knowledge that the more money I have, the more I can do in this world, the more I can serve, the more companies I can start, the more people I can employ, the more I can teach my children by example, the more I can teach all the women that are surrounding me in my life. So it's actually more of a tool at this stage for me to be an example and to, I'd say the biggest thing is to not be held captive to any other person.
Freedom.
And and that goes back definitely into my childhood. The freedom to choose what I want and what I don't want. And the biggest thing that I see now goes back to even being single. girls choosing choices based on what they need and not necessarily what they want. And I see that so often. So they're compromising what they really want based on what somebody could provide for them in a materialistic financial way versus what they truly want for their lives. And so that has been something that's really resonating with me right now to pay attention to, because it very much goes into a huge self-worth issue of our generation.
That's very interesting.
The upcoming generations.
So tell me, your Empowered brand is a brand. It's beautiful jewelry, but it's also a movement, and it's really becoming a bigger thing. So can you talk a little bit about how that relates to your money love story?
Yeah. So, you had mentioned the Butler Bread Company, and that was one of my first real hit successes where I really tasted what success felt like.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago, my business partner stole from me. Almost bankrupted my company that I'd worked so hard to grow.
Wow.
And it was almost crippling. Yeah. And as an entrepreneur, it was the first time in my life that I thought, I don't know if I can do this again. Maybe I'll just go work for a company. And that thought made me sick within about 5 minutes.
Yeah,
so
I can't imagine.
I backed up from that one, and I was like, I sat at my kitchen table. It was such a clear moment where I prayed, and I said, God, I'm apparently off path for whatever reason.
God, I'm apparently off path. That's a beautiful prayer.
And apparently you need me on a different path. And I'm not sure what that path is.
Yeah.
So please show me, guide me. I'm willing, I surrender. 4 hours after that, I got a phone call from a guy who I'd known a long time ago, who I'd worked with at QVC. And he called me and he said, hey, Jen, I'm working with these jewelry manufacturers at QVC. They're the largest manufacturer. They are really inspired by you. They want to put your quotes to jewelry. Cool. And I was like, what? I never thought to do something like that. That's amazing. I would love to do that. And so I went to meet these women, and they told me the idea, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And all this moment where I feel so helpless almost, and stressed out, which I don't really stress about much, really, ever. This came to me in a way that was so organic, and I wasn't pursuing it, because that's so often as an entrepreneur, you're pursuing, constantly
there's a lot
pursuing.
of striving.
Yes, there's constantly like, what's the next thing?
Yeah.
Where this just came to me shortly after that prayer. That's really cool. And the ironic thing is I have this consistent connection to Toronto, Canada. I'm not from Toronto, never lived in Toronto, but I have this consistent connection to Toronto, Canada in every pivotal moment of my professional life. These women, although I'm meeting them in New York, they were from Toronto. And the headquarters are in Toronto. So once I realized that, I was like, okay, I got it. Huge sign.
Yeah.
So they said, what would you call it? And it just came out. And I said, empowered, because I want to empower people with this. And so that really ignited this entire new brand and business and movement that I never set out for, but kind of just naturally evolved authentically through who I am and the experiences that I went through. So in losing almost everything, I got a new perspective that actually gave me a greater sense of success and money. In a way that was so much more mature and so much more evolved and courageous and strong. And so the biggest thing I learned in it is just when you think that it's over or you're down and out, if you have faith in yourself and just have faith that things happen the way they're supposed to and maintain that faith, then you'll see the new path. If you're paying attention, because it's there.
Beautiful.
But you have to pay attention.
Such a good lesson. You know, and it's always darkest before the dawn, right?
Right, exactly.
So there's that song, what is that? Shake it up, shake it up.
Yeah.
You know the song? I can't remember who says it, but anyway.
That was good, though.
Yeah, thanks. We could sing. But we won't.
I didn't know that was one of your hidden talents.
I do sing from time to time. Thank you.
Mike can attest to this.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. I got a lot of good golden nuggets out of that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I hope so. I hope that everyone else did too.
Absolutely. And if you want to find out more about Jen, go to jengroover.com. And if you'd like to hear more money love stories and find out more about Money, a Love Story, the book, Go to moneyalovestory.com, and when you purchase the book, you'll get free access to a 2-hour live online event I'm doing called A Course in Having Enough. And I'm going to be joined by guest teachers Marianne Williamson, Barbara Stanny, and Amanda Steinberg, founder of dailyworth.com. So that's going to be a juicy event. Find out about that at moneyalovestory.com. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
You're so sweet for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. It sounds like an amazing event.
I'm excited about it.
That's going to be awesome.
Thank you.